What goes up must come down. Welcome to another episode. This is the restoration on the Bentley project. If you missed the last episode, I'll link it right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe while you're here. So let's get going on this. It's kind of interesting because there's so much to be done on this car, and I know that it looks really clean and, you know, like it's just perfect, great, but there's so much stuff that's just internally rotting on it. So I kind of prioritize based on what's completely detrimental to driving it and like what's going to break down first. So as I was doing the front brakes, I noticed a lot of suspension stuff that was like hanging on by a thread or prayer. Like it was looking at me like, help me, please, like either let me die or replace me. So I'm tackling the front air struts. The reason I'm doing that is because they're leaking. I'm doing the fronts first, and I will do the backs. So yeah, let's get to it. I'm gonna link where I got my front replacement struts in the description. And you know, look, I did a lot of research. Don't be hating on where I got them. I'll tell you one thing, I did not get them from Bentley because they are astronomically expensive, but I'm really happy with them. And I got a really cool sticker too when they came. So let's get to it. What tools do you need? This is a really straightforward job. I mean, there's like in total maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 bolts altogether. The biggest challenge was reconfiguring everything at the end. So at the end of the video, I'll show you how I did that. You do need some kind of a diagnostic software. I used RossTech's VCDS, and that was really challenging for multiple reasons. But I got it done in the end. So let's talk about just the basic tools that you need. A 10mm wrench, and you will need some kind of another wrench. This is to hold the level sensor arm. You have to undo one side while you hold the other side so it doesn't keep slipping. And I have this cute little baby wrench. A 13mm wrench. You will need not one, but 2 16mm wrenches. You will need not one, but 2 18mm wrenches. You will need a double square, I forget what it's called, but I'll link it in the description. It's an I want to say an M12. Anyways, it kind of looks like a Torx bit, but it's not a Torx bit. And you need that. Gloves, little hammer, some screwdrivers, 17mm socket, 18mm socket, and a 13mm socket. This helped. And most definitely a breaker bar. 16mm socket. I never mention this because I kind of figure it goes without saying, but you definitely need a torque wrench. If you don't use one of these, you're very silly. This is one that I use. But this is one that I like. It's a family heirloom. So that's pretty much all you need. Now, when I went to go do this, I did find a plethora of things that also need to be replaced within the front suspension area, so I'll be ordering that. And you know what? I was so terrified to even start this job. The only reason I'm scared to ever start anything is because I'm unfamiliar and I don't know what awaits. So once I replace the air struts on the front, I'm, you know, fairly now familiar with how it goes together. I'm not so scared anymore. I'm actually looking forward to tackling the other components. So I know the CV axles, they're gonna need to be replaced, the upper and the lower control arms. There's a whole bunch of things, and I'm sure that I'm butchering the names, but I'm gonna order the parts, and I don't mind that I have to unassemble something again to replace it. I know, you know, in a perfect situation, I would have had all the parts here so I could just replace everything at the same time, but keep in mind, I really do enjoy working on the cars and taking my time, and it just becomes kind of like too much of a project at that point from my mind. So little by little, we'll get that front suspension in tip-top form. But in the meantime, let's go. It takes so long to do any job because I have to set up my cameras and make sure that the lighting's okay. You know, it's a lot of outdoor light, so I don't have a lot of control over that so much. But anyways, before I jack up the car, it does go into jack mode. And I am, of course, using jack stands. This is that little leveling sensor. So on one side, you've got a 10mm, and the other side just keep it from spinning. And then once this pops out, you just kind of move it out of the way, and you want to tuck it out of the way so you don't like rip it off by accident, because it does feel like a flimsy plastic. Fun fact is you can actually buy different level sensors to lower the car. So they're like $200, and they trick the car into thinking that it's at a different height. So that way you can lower your car really cheaply. I might get them once I'm done with everything, because this car does look pretty darn sick when it's slammed. And then when you're letting the air out, do it nice and slow. I'm super paranoid about things like this, so I let it out, hiss, a little bit at a time. And once it's out, the new Strut does come with a new metal piece to plug in. I'm kind of paranoid, so I put a little rubber cap over that air hose just in case something were to fly in there. You know, you never know. And then this top bolt comes off. Everything came off really easy, and I had watched YouTube videos where dudes were really struggling with these bolts. I got lucky. What can I say? I mean, the car's been garage kept, so it's not like it's been through like a lot of, crazy weather, but yeah, these things just kind of popped right out. But this is where I started to notice that the bearings within the different control arms were just completely toasted. But too late. I can't just go to O'Reilly and get them, sadly. So, I gotta order it because I can't leave my car unassembled in the street. And then there's 3 strut mounting bolts, and they're under this plastic cowl. It would be a little bit easier if I removed the windshield wipers and pulled off the cowl, but I kind of got around it. I know it was a little bit lazy. These are the special double square spline doodads that you need, and it was a size M12, I believe. And there's 3 of them. It looks like whoever did this job before used like a Torx bit, because these were hanging on by a thread. I mean, they were not that bad, but I could see where they had been kind of twisted and grinded, so I'll probably replace them all eventually. But that's the fun of doing these jobs. You find new fun things that need to be replaced along the way, like my CV boots. And then the bolt comes out with ease, and then I just use a ginormous screwdriver to prop it out of the way. I'm using 3 jacks for this job, 1 on each side, because it was recommended to lift up both sides as evenly as possible when you're doing this job. And then I've got a smaller jack under this whole assembly here, because I didn't want, it's very heavy, and I just didn't want it to be hanging there or, I don't know, come crashing down. It made me feel good. And then of course I've got a couple jack stands in the best places that I could figure out where to put them. Okay, look at this guy. He has seen better days. He's actually not in the worst of condition, but it's, he's definitely got some miles on him. So the top brace just comes off the old one and goes onto the new one. It's held on by 4 13mm nuts. Just pop them off, put the new one on the new one. Make sure that you push that little lever, the little sensor through the top hole, and job is halfway done at this point. connected. These are back in place. And I found out that my CV boot is torn while doing this job. Alright, we got one side done. Tomorrow I'll do the other side, but this is the old fallen soldier behind me right there. All in all, it's not a bad job. It's a few bolts. It's really not bad, but everything's really, really heavy. Everything's just heavy, but yeah, not super bad. I just keep telling myself that. It was pretty bad. I was so stoked to tidy everything up and roll this car into the garage with, you know, pretty much no issues of the day. And so I get in the car and I go to start off and I can hear the bags inflating. I didn't hear anything, did you? Yeah. The entire neighborhood heard that. My mom came out. She said, "What happened?" My neighbors came out. They wondered what happened. And at the time, I really didn't know what happened. All I know is that I got in the car and I felt it start to raise. And it was like going shh, raising. And then all of a sudden, the loudest bang of my life. I was like, what? Am I shot? Thankfully, I wasn't shot, but the car was. So that night I laid in bed and I agonized and I read forums and I found that the inner bladder can just get old over time, like 50,000 miles, which this car doesn't even have yet. But you know, it's been sitting. So my theory, what I've deduced from reading the forums, is that okay, the old Air Strut, you know, was weak, right? And both the old Air Struts were weak. So the air goes in and they both, you know, go up because they're equally weak. Hear me out, stay with me here. I replaced the left side and now it's like, this is a firm bladder, right? So the compressor's pumping, and because this one's firm, it's pushing more air into the weak side, versus if they were both new and firm, it would be pushing them equally. So I think the old weak side received too much pressure, therefore making it go boom, or boom, however you want to spin it. That is my theory. I was just happy that when I went out the next day to check out the side that blew, it was pretty obvious. You know, it was the inner, it was like the bladder seal bust or something. It blew, you'll see right here. If I didn't see what was apparent, you know, God only knows what was going to happen. I was probably going to have to, like, I don't know, like look for a broken line, or originally I thought maybe I didn't turn the valve in all the way and the line blew out of the Air Strut. None of that was true. It was just a very obvious blowout. So the following day, I went to tackle that other side. Put it in jack mode, jack it up, pull off the wheel, and get to it. You'll need a little 10mm for the back. There's a the leveling sensor down here, so you need a 10mm and then you need a little guy or something like this to keep it from rotating on the other side. that's the line you're going to disconnect. It's a 10mm, and then I just unclip these clips. This second side was a breeze. Well, almost all the way a breeze. But, you know, I knew where everything was. I knew the right wrenches to use. The second side's just always more pleasurable to do, in my opinion. And everything was going so very well throughout this entire process. Little did I know that there was trials and tribulation ahead of me. When it came time to undo the 3 top bolts that mount the strut to the car, I found that one of them, of course the one that is most deep in the engine bay, was completely stripped. I'll show you the bolt in a second, but I stood there in complete disbelief, and I took a moment and I prayed. I prayed very hard, and I envisioned the bolt moving. You may think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious. I envisioned it. Dear God, please. Dear God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Thank you for calling Audi Valencia. This call may be recorded for quality assurance. For service, please press 1. For sales, please press 2. For parts, please press 3. To speak with the operator... Audi Valencia Parts Department, this is Bridget. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm wondering if you guys have some strut mounting bolts in stock for an A8.
What year?
It's I believe a 2007. You know, I was so thankful for that bolt to come off. This job could have gone so differently. How would I have gotten this bolt out? I really didn't know. I looked at it and I thought, I really don't know how I'm going to get this out. You couldn't heat it up. It's next to all these different components and wires and tubes and hoses. I didn't know what I was going to do. When it came off, it was single-handedly one of the best moments of the year. And I called up Audi, got the replacement part. I took a gander at what it would be, because I know that this motor is in an A8, and I end up getting the bolt just 4 days later. It would obviously be so much better and easier to have someone under the car just waiting to hold this strut as it comes out, but I didn't have that, so I got creative and I used my foot, and the whole time I was imagining the strut like blowing off and like ripping my foot off or twisting my ankle, and my ankle like getting cut on my rotor, something terrible. That didn't happen. It actually got stuck along the way, so I didn't even need to have my foot there, but I had a towel there just in case. You know, you gotta use precaution. I'm trying not to like break things while I'm trying to fix things, but sometimes it's just unavoidable. And with the strut out of the car, it's just time to switch the bracket on top and install it. You know, lifting this thing, it's pretty heavy. For those of you who have replaced their kitchen garbage disposal, that is very similar to this job in weight and in the position that you have to be in, or I have to be in anyways. I hate plumbing with a passion. You always get wet, you're always in uncomfortable positions, and that, I know that sounds, what I just described sounds like a lot of fun for some of you, but it's not when it comes to plumbing. And this is what it reminded me of, this terrible day that I had to basically replace the garbage disposal in my kitchen. It was horrible. I was like laying under my sink soaking wet trying to lift this heavy garbage disposal up, and it was a nightmare, but I got it done. It's fine and it works amazing. So as I'm doing this, you can see the sway bar link up there. It's like completely wobbly wibbly, so I will be replacing that. But first things first, getting this new strut mounted up so I can drive my car again. So one of the bolts is stripped. I ordered another one from Audi. I found the part number, and it's an Audi part number too, so that's going to be here in a couple days. So for now I just put 2 of the mounting bolts up there, and I'll put that 3rd one in when I get it. I'm not driving the car anywhere, so it'll be fine. I know I keep saying Audi, and I do mean VW, but I called Audi to get the VW part because, you know, VW supplies Audi and Porsche and Bentley and Lamborghini. I gave it my old heave-ho, and I actually got it up in there all by myself. You know, I held it up kind of with my foot and mounted the bolts, and I did it. I felt so good. And of course the use of my friendly jack. That does it. The next thing I'm going to fix are I don't know if you noticed in the video, but the CV boots are gone, and who knows how long they've been gone. They're busted on both sides. One side is really bad. I would just safely assume that the previous owner, you know, due to like the neglect that I've seen on the car, he probably drove around with those boots busted for a long time. So I'm going to replace the CV, the front CV axles. I've got those on the way. And then also, there's a lot of control arms that the bushings are completely worn out, so I'll probably just replace those. You know, judging from the belly pan when I did the oil change, it looks like the previous owner like really hit some curbs or some like those parking stumps. So yeah, better safe than sorry. And the parts aren't like too expensive, relatively speaking. So the reset procedure. Alright, let's go through this reset procedure. So you take your laptop and your VCDS little interface, and you hook it into that OBD port, and you run, don't go to the scan, but go to, I believe it's the comfort settings, or it could be chassis. I'll show the video right here too. Right here. So you go into that setting, you enter into the security area, they pop up a code that you need, you enter that code, and then you click channel 1, and you wait for the values to populate. Once that does, you get out of the car and you measure from the center of the wheel center cap to the bottom of the fender. And again, you'll see that, I'll link a video. So you get those measurements, convert them to millimeters, and enter it into that field. You press test, press save, and you move on to number 2, which is, I think, the rear tire. Anyways, it will tell you exactly. You basically have to go through each one. So you have to be in the car with all the doors closed, car and park, of course. You do enter one, get out, measure another wheel, get in, enter it, get out, measure another wheel, and do this 4 times. The very last step is the most critical. If you do not go to channel 5 and type in, I believe it's 1 or 01, or it could be 0, just watch the video, then it won't save what you just did. And throughout this process, you'll feel it balancing itself. So from what I read, entering the values that it's at tells the car where it needs to adjust. So if it's supposed to be, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw this number out there, a 400 millimeter, and you entered in 500, the car thinks, okay, well, I'm gonna need to go down this much so I can be level. You know, it took me 2 times, and VCDS has a great YouTube video on it. Again, I'll link it in the description. So, but that is most critical. Your car will not be level if you don't. So there's just no point in that. You'd be driving with a lopsided car. And as my mom would say, your car's lopsided and it looks as stupid as you do. Thank you so much for watching. I had fun sharing this tumultuous, exciting, thrilling, chilling experience with you. I'll see you next week, and in the meantime, I'll see you on the daily on my TikTok and my Instagram, my Twitter, and my Snapchat. And if I don't see you there, I'll be sending out messages in the bottle and smoke signals, and I'll call you. So just pick up. It's a private number. But yeah, it's me. So don't worry, it's me. I can't help but think about pick-apart as I'm working on this car. When I was a kid, pick-up parts were like a treasure trove. Like, you didn't go for even parts. Sometimes you could pick a whole car out and it was like a great car. I remember my dad and I, we would frequent the pick-apart in Sun Valley and Sunland, and there was this octopus on the sign, like obviously a fake octopus, and there was a big car, like a full-size car, like elevated so you could actually see it off the freeway. It was amazing, and the taco trucks were always there, and you know, they had great food. But my dad would wear these like Michael Myers overalls, and we were not only cheap, but we were poor. And so, you know, we would need random things from pick-apart, always for like his Camaro or his BMWs. So he'd wear these Michael Myers overalls, which had like 47 different pockets in them. And then, you know, I was a kid, so I had pockets, and he would always try to, you know, hustle out little things that, you know, we couldn't afford to pay for. Or we'd go on the holidays where it's like, I don't know, I think it was like 50% off or whatever, they'd give you some kind of a discount. But man, if they had a Bentley pickup part, I'd be saving so much money. The places did always kind of creep me out because it was kind of like visiting a graveyard with a bunch of dead bodies. You know, each one had history, and I couldn't help but think, like, you were new once, what happened? How did you get here? Anyways, yeah, but there are no Bentley pickup parts where I live in California, and also the pickup parts these days, it's not the same. They're not filled with cars that I need parts for. Like, I need parts for my Mustang or my Camaro. You really never see any of those there. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. But this one time my dad and I went to pick a part for my car, and my car at the time was like an 84 Civic, Honda Civic. And so we were going for something, and I don't know, we were in a hurry. My dad was in a bad mood, and he had this bright idea. He was like, let's split up. And we had never gone our separate ways at pick apart. Like, this sounded like a bad idea to me, but okay, sure, whatever you say, Dad. So because they had tons of Civics, like tons of Hondas and tons of my Civic, you know, just picked apart. So we went our separate ways, and I'm looking for my parts, and I don't know what my dad's doing, but I literally run into him maybe 10 minutes later. Max. He's beet red mad. Like, he's so irate, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So he's like, where were you? And I'm like, I was looking at the cars like you told me to. And he's like, that was a terrible idea. I just pictured you getting kidnapped and thrown into a trunk, and I thought about it right after we split up, and I went looking for you, and I couldn't find you anywhere. And he was so mad at me or him, I don't know, but everything was okay. I didn't even think we ended up finding the part that he wanted. He was so rattled from the experience, and it was literally like his idea to do it. So that was like one of my last pick apart experiences with my dad. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this as much as I do. I'll see you next time. Bye.